And I have a question over.
Yeah.
So how do you write them ratios and fractions if you have like a decimal? So like
What?
7.7. Sorry, I know like 6.1. So it's right 7.7 to 10. So that's 7/10.
Well, 7, you put 7.7 over 10. Right, each ratio is a ratio of the full numbers. Yeah. So you put 7.7 over 10.
I guess what confused me is that 7.7 is like 7/10.
It is. Well, 7 and 7/10. So what you want to do is you want to put 7.7 over 10, but then you have to multiply both that's on the bottom by something to make it decimal. So you have to multiply by 10 to make it move over, because they say it's a ratio of whole numbers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So guys, let me ask you a question that, guys, and as I ask this question, listen to it. It's like the other half of that statement. This is where people make the most mistakes with percentages. Let's say I make $10 an hour, which my first job I made $3.25 an hour. So hey, let's say I make $10 an hour, and then all of a sudden my paycheck I see that they cut my pay by 10%. So I go and complain. I say, "What the hell, man?" And they, "Oh, we're sorry. We'll raise your pay by 10%. No worries." And I walk away. Now, most people would say, well, you're back up to $10 an hour, and you're completely wrong. 10% is not the same as 10%. You gotta be careful. When I got $10, when I'm making $10 an hour, and I get a 10% cut, that's actually $1 lower now. So how much am I making now? $9. Now I come in and complain and say, hey, what the hell? And they say, okay, we'll raise your pay by 10%. 10% of 9 is 90 cents. So now I'm only making $9.90, and some of you guys remember, you probably are in it right now, 10 cents an hour adds up. Right? Especially when I was making $3.25 an hour, 5 cent an hour increase is like, oh wow. Right? Now the minimum wage is whatever the hell it is. So that's one of the most basic, one of the really basic percentage mistakes that people make, is that it really depends on fruit. It doesn't depend on fruit. It depends on the base. It depends on what it's of. So let me ask you this question. How many guys could do this right now with a calculator? What is 13% of 700? What operation would you do? I like it. So there's a couple things inherent in what you just said. That word of, for some reason, that word of is not being explained or something, or students are forgetting it from high school. It used to be second nature. Of meant multiply. Of meant multiply. We knew that. Now, as I teach more and more students, I'm noticing they don't know that as much anymore. The other thing is a percentage. What does a percentage really mean?
It's 100.
By the way, if anybody desperately needs to talk while I'm lecturing, you can leave. The door's right there. It does open. You got me? All right. Thank you. You don't have to stay. You can go. What does percent mean? What's that symbol really mean? Out of 100. Cool. And that actually per cent, that cent is from centum, the Latin meaning 100. So percent really does mean 13 over 100. So that percentage symbol is actually something we made up just to make these things make a little more sense to us. So I can say 50% instead of 0.5, 28% instead of 0.28. So 13%, 13 over 100, how do I write that as a decimal? 0.13. I love it. To put that into the hundreds place. Cool. So the shortcut to change from percentage to decimal or decimal to percent is you move the decimal twice. It's all about which way do you move it, right? So to do this problem, before I get too far away, 0.13, that's what 13% is. Of means times 700. And what do you get when you do that? I think I heard somebody, 91. Which makes sense. 13% of 700 should be on the smaller side. 10% of 700. Can somebody do 10% of 700 real quick?
Yeah, 70 bucks.
70. Right? 10%, you just move the decimal once. That's how you do 10%. It's kind of nice. 1%, you would move it twice. How many of you have ever been or are currently waiters or waitresses? All right. Why is this near and dear to your heart, possibly? Tips, right? When this jackass comes in and orders $500 worth of stuff and gives you a $7 tip. Exactly. What kind of irks me, what probably is good for you guys, is they put at the bottom of receipts nowadays, they put, and they tell you what it is. Right? And my brain is like, damn, that was one place for people to get math help, but if you can, how to say, screw that, Jeff, just tell them what the hell it is so they give it to me, all right? Try to make a living. So let's focus on, this is getting a little ahead of where I want to be right now, but it sounds like a decent number of us kind of know how to attack that thing. Let's take one step back. 16%, what would that be as a decimal? Let's start, what would that be as a fraction? Yeah, 16 over 100. So as a decimal, that would be 0.1611. Right? What if I had 7 over 100? What's that as a percentage?
0.07.
As a percentage?
7%.
7%. And of course, as a decimal? 0.07. Cool. So let's focus on a few shortcuts here. And I've got kind of a nifty way to do this. If I had 0.19%, this is where people make a mistake. What would that be as a decimal? As a decimal. And see, all of a sudden it's very hard. This was easy as hell. This now, for some reason, is really hard. Here's how you do this.
0.
Decimal percent. Percent means division by 100. So when I go from percent to decimal, do you see how the number gets smaller? Because what does percent mean? Divide by 100. So when I go from percent to decimal, it gets smaller. The decimal goes that way, doesn't it?
Yes.
So from percent to decimal, it goes that way. And from decimal to percent, it goes that way.
0.00.
So if you just put DP in alphabetical order, it tells you which way to go. So I am currently in a percentage. Which way do I need to move the decimal to get to a decimal? That way. How many times?
2.
Always twice. So 1, 2, 0, 0, 1, 9. What are we doing there? So what is 147.9 as a percentage? Careful.
1.1.
I'm in a decimal right now, right? I'm in decimal form. How do I move the decimal to get to percentage? That way. Right? That way. So once, twice. Okay, cool. Because what's 100%? 100% is, what is a decimal? How many times do you move the decimal?
1.
Twice. In which direction? That way.
So it's 1.
So it's 1. Right? 100% of something is one of them, isn't it?
Yes.
If I have 100% of my gas tank full, I got one full gas tank. It's amazing. So it shouldn't be surprising that if 1 is 100%, 147.9 is a freaking big percent. 1 is 100%, so this would be crazy big percent. And some of us may be like, what the hell does that mean, Jeff? You can only have 100% of something, but you can have like your profit go up by this much, possibly, right? You can have your profit go up by 200, 300, 500%, or go down by quite a lot. Right? So something that should not surprise you is you're going to see a chart, much like what I had on the test now, like this here. Right? So let me just put a few up here and let you guys go to town for a minute. And I'm going to have a chart like this on the test, so you know how to get ready for that. as I say this, some of you guys are gonna find your old calculator manuals and see if this is true. Some of you have calculators that have fraction buttons. Some of you have calculators that have fraction buttons and you know how to use them. Now, the problem with that kind of thing is that I'll get an answer like in the fraction part that's reduced out of nowhere. And that normally tells me, oh yeah, that came right out of a calculator. So you still have to show me some work. Don't just let the calculator do the work for you. Now, if you're not sure if you have a calculator that has a fraction button and how to use it, I would probably find out how. It's a great way to check your work. There you go, see? He's got the quick reference guide. I like that. They can do mixed numbers and stuff too, right?
Yes. It's actually telling you right here how to do fractions and how to simplify.
Probably do, put in there.
Yeah. Oh.
Uh-huh, yeah.
That is not something. I learned something new today.
Since you took the initiative to look, I figured I'd help you out a little bit.
Thank you.
So you gotta be careful, you gotta show me that work. Yes, sir. So that was from the last chapter, so it depends on which place you're in. So this is tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. So you have 71 10,000s. Right, so the place here, how many of them I've got there? Yeah, so what would this be as a fraction? Yeah, 1 in 29 hundredths. Right. Now, watch this, it's kind of cool. Another way to write this is 129 over 100. So that's another way to write that. Because what now? Let's look at that real quick. All right, can I write that? Is that all right?
Yes.
Can I break that up as 100 plus 29 over 100? And what is 100 divided by 100? 1. So another way to write this is this. That actually might help you go to the percent step, but it's easier just to go from a decimal. How do I change from a decimal to a percent? From a decimal to a percent, I move
Right.
that way. Yeah. So 1, 2, so 129%. And why does that make sense? 1.29 is bigger than 1, so the percentage should be bigger than 100%.
Makes sense.
I'm like a politician up here. I'm thinking Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton, yeah. It was more like
That was his thing.
that.
My thumb, I'm gonna kill it.
Obama does that too.
Really?
Like point to
Well, let me be clear. That's Obama's thing.
Yeah.
You ever
let
see
me be
him?
clear.
He's got to say that phrase at some point. Anyway, how do I go from this fraction to the decimal? That's the last chapter, really. Good. That's 100. The hundredths place. So I know. So I know I'm going to stop there. 7. And a percentage. What would that percent be? Yeah, because you want to move it twice that way. 7%. I love it. Real quick, while we're talking about the 7%, the biggest mistake I see is people write this like this. What's wrong with that? What percent would that really be, this decimal? It would be 70%. So what I'll see is we'll have a problem about an interest rate in a bank, and it's a 7% interest rate, but the student does the whole problem with 0.7. I'm like, that bank kicks ass. 70% interest rate. I am there. You don't see that a lot. I'd be worried if they would be there the next day. You don't see that a lot, as in never.
Yeah.
All right, guys, what about this one? How do you make this percent to this decimal? You want to go, I'm in a percent to a decimal, right? So I've got to go 1, 2, 0.714.
I know.
So I always remember, personally, I mean, that might help. I don't know if that DP thing helps out anybody, but I always remember that the percentage number is always bigger than the decimal number. Do you see what I mean? The percentage number is always bigger than the decimal number. Always. Because the percentage number doesn't actually do the division by 100. As a symbol, that means divide by 100. It doesn't actually do it. So it's always going to be bigger. It hasn't been divided by 100 yet. And then how do I do this? A fraction? What place am I in? What place am I in?
The hundred.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
sorry,
I'm
the
looking at
thousand.
the percentage.
The
Thousand.
thousand.
So that,
Looking at the percentage.
I want you to understand, a percent number is a number that we as humans have made up. It's a totally, not totally made up, but the percentage symbol means over 100, so I haven't done that division yet. I can't look at that as a number. When I want to do that, what was that problem I had up here at the beginning? What is 13% of something? If I want to do that, I can't do the math with 13, I have to do the math with 0.13 because that's the real number. This is not the real number that the math needs to use. This is the number the math needs to use. So this is the number I need to make into a fraction. 714 out of 1,000. Cool. And to tell you honestly, I'd rather see that. You don't have to really reduce this. I'm not really testing you on that. I'd rather see this, because that tells me you can go from there straight to there. Yeah.
Sorry, kind of random question. For the problem right above it, are you gonna ever ask for it to be not a mixed number?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I just want to show you that because it's out of 100, which is what percentage means. So 129 of 100 is 129%. That would be a direct way to go from fraction to percent.
But if you wanted it just to be a fraction and not a mixed number, you would like have to multiply it by 100 and you'd have like
Yeah, 100 times 1 plus 29 is 129 of 100.
10,000. Oh, is it not?
No, 100 times 1 is 100.
We don't have
Plus
to
29 is
Don't
129
you
over
have to
100.
multiply both by? No. Okay.
Basically, it's that work there.
Okay.
Yeah. So what about this guy here? What would that be as a fraction? Good. So it's in the thousands place, just like the one before it. What about a percent? Yeah, you gotta move it once, twice, so it's just 0.7%. Cool. I like it. Now finally, this guy, there's two options for this guy. One option is easier because there's a 25 on the bottom. Or you can do the long division. Personally, I'd rather make the bottom become 100 because then I can do both the decimal and the percent. So what do I multiply by? 4. So I get 8 out of 100. What is that as a decimal?
0.08.
Good. 0.08, hundredths place. And then as a percent?
8%.
8%. I love it. Okay, cool. So again, I'm telling you exactly that this problem, not with these numbers, but a problem like this will be on your test.
So this is all testing.
Taking a mental picture.
Or you can just watch it.
Yeah, I'm taking an actual picture. All right. So if you look on page 467, for example, I mean, part of the homework is going to be pretty much exactly that kind of table also, so you get some practice with it. Part of this is this kind of thing. If
Nobody here.
I'll see. No, let's make this. You can all spell.
Voted for Pedro.
Voted for Pedro. So there are 40 people in the room, 18 voted for Rami, 20 voted for Obama, and 2 voted for themselves. I get a better job than these people.
Wait, option?
No,
Huh?
that's what you
Yeah, the write-ins are always an option.
On the ballot.
Yeah, the write-in, yeah.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
You get some Mickey Mouses and stuff.
My dad texted me, he said
What
that.
percentage
Stone Cold.
voted for Romney? So this is the true basics of a percentage. How do you create a percentage? A percentage is always a part divided by a whole, right? So if your gas tank has got 14 gallons and you only have 7 gallons in it, how full is it?
Half.
Half full. 7 over 14 reduces to 1/2. Part divided by whole. So what's the whole here? What's the whole?
40.
40. So 40 would be on the bottom of any percentage I make in this room, right? Because there's a total of 40 people. How many people did what I'm asking for?
18.
18. So now you got to convert that into a percentage. Now there's one really nice step you could take. What could you do with 18 over 40? Reduce it. I love it. And let's see if that helps us out.
Okay.
What does that become?
9 over 20.
9 over 20. And why is that bottom so much better now?
Because you can multiply that by 5 to make it.
Exactly. So what's the key here? Percentage is out of 100. So if they want me to get a percentage, if I can make the bottom 100, I'm golden. What the hell do I do if I can't? Or here, if I don't think about reducing, you would have to long divide, because then you get the decimal that you convert into a percentage, right? By moving the decimal place the right number of places. So if you can make the bottom 100, hell yes, I'm going to do that, because I don't want to do long division if I don't have to, right? If I can't, if this was 18 over 37 or something, oh, I can't shit with that. I've got to do the long division. It's just the way it is. Here I don't, thank God. So here I multiply by what?
4, 5.
Good. 5. So 45 over 100 is 45%. I love it. And does that make sense? What's half of 40? 20. So 50% of 40 would be 20. A little bit less did this, and that's what we got, a little bit less than 50%. So it makes sense. Okay. If you get 450%, that doesn't make sense for a few reasons. More people than there are voted for holy crap, which actually some people might say it would have
Oh,
happened.
was this in Florida? Is that where they-
Could have been. The land of hanging chads and stuff. That's from 2000.
Yeah.
So that pretty much handles all the types of things you'll see in section 7.1. The basics of making a percent, part divided by whole. And then they talk about how to convert from percent to fraction to decimal. Where things start to get a little more interesting, we'll do one more kind of problem and then we'll head out a little early here.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I made everything clear. Now, I've seen a lot of different ways to do this, and one of the things I see the most often is over of equals P over 100. Has anybody ever heard of that? Is over of?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you like that, stay with it. To me, it's much simpler. Let's see if you guys agree with me. This is one case where this is just like a step away from the math, and then you just solve the equation, and that should be relatively easy. For some reason, the is over of got a little confusing sometimes about which one was is, which one was of. This sets up beautifully into an equation, though. What's the is mean for an equation? 8 is, so equals. What percent, I don't know, x, of means multiply 15. And then how do I solve that? How do I get x by itself? Divided by 15. Cool. So how do I make that into a percent? Just do the division, right?
I just did that like twice.
Yeah. So what do you get? I'll go ahead and let you guys do it in the calculator if you want to. What do you get when you do that? 0.53. So what is that in as approximately? What is that as a percentage? 53. And why does it make sense? 8 is half of 16, so 8 should be a little more than half of 15. And that makes sense, a little more than half makes sense. So how do I set this one up as an equation?
Equals X
13 equals x.
times.
I like it, cool. And the same kind of thing, you just solve. So no matter which one I don't know, I just put an x in that spot and I solve for it. So to me, that's the best way to do these. I've seen some really weird ass ways to do these kind of problems. But the equation is one step away from the equation, and that equation is one step away from being done. So it's a two-step problem. So here you just divide by 2197. Now this one I'll definitely let you do in the calculator. All right, whatever the hell that is.
We just round it.
565, so 0.06. What was that, 5, 2? I don't know. 2 zeros?
69. How come I got 169?
0, 0, 6, 5 or something?
59.
0, 0, 5, 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wait, I did it wrong. I'm an idiot.
So 13 divided by 2197. Yeah.
I did it the other way around, but I did the math.
What would that be as a percentage?
Wait, why am I getting 5.9?
E.
I don't know what
Oh, yeah. So that means times 10 to the negative 3. That number will always tell you how many times you have to move the decimal. So back 3 because it's negative.
How
1,
do I
2,
make it
3.
so it doesn't do that?
All right. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, I took you to a weird place. Just
Okay.
hit on or something. So how do I make that into a percentage? Careful. Yeah, once, twice. This is way less than 1. It should be a very small percentage. Yeah.
After you divide, or when you divide it, you don't round it like I did, or you leave it like that.
I don't know. I didn't really divide it. I'm operating off of you guys right now. What do you get when you do the division? What exactly? 0.0059.
59.
Okay.
I wouldn't round it up after that.
A couple numbers is normally a good idea. So give me a couple of digits. Don't just make it a 6. Yeah, cool. But I'll be more specific what I want it out to, especially when it's something like something. Yeah. Okay. So that's 7-2 really. Oh, and then that's funny. Did you realize that? All right. Anyway. So that's actually plenty for today. So up through 7-2. So go ahead and get started on that homework. Yeah.